Welcome to the Synopsis. In this series, we bring you books in brief, short summaries of the greatest books of our time that you've always wanted to read. In the next few minutes, we'll discuss what makes these books so influential.
Hey everyone, Ahalya here on the Synopsis, and today we're tackling a book that is iconic to say the least. I'm sure all the 90s kids listening will know what I'm talking about. The phrase paradigm shift entered common lexicon. Quadrants and synergy became buzzwords overnight. Fast forward 20 years and Stephen Covey is firmly established in the self-help pantheon, and this book is now a rite of passage. I'm talking about The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. 7 Habits made one thing very clear. Our routine defines our character and takes our behavior in a certain direction. A paradigm is the way each one of us perceives and understands the world. Covey claimed our paradigms are at the core of our characters, and shifting these paradigms is the key to our transformation. For instance, a person with a negative paradigm or worldview will hate getting lost in an unknown city and view it as a waste of time. On the other hand, someone with a more positive mindset or paradigm might take it as an unexpected adventure. Covey explained that the most effective paradigms are the ones aligned with universal principles like fairness, honesty, and integrity. The more accurately our own map of paradigms reflects such principles, the more realistic our worldview and the better our chances of making lasting changes. So what are these 7 habits of highly effective people? Let's discuss. The first one is be proactive. Picture 2 concentric circles. The outer circle is what Stephen Covey calls the circle of concern, representing all the things you're concerned about. Inside this is a smaller circle, the circle of influence, which represents all the things you can actually do something about. Proactive people focus on their circles of influence, choosing to work on the things within their control, and this results in the expansion of their circles of influence. On the other hand, reactive people focus on their circles of concern, fussing over things they can't directly control or influence. This results in their circle of influence actually shrinking. Covey argues that we all possess the same power to decide what happens in the gap between stimulus and our response. Remind yourself that the root cause is your reaction to the problem and focus on finding solutions instead of accusing others. Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. Covey says every action is performed twice. First in our mind when we imagine it, and then physically when we execute it. For example, when building a house, we first visualize what kind of house we desire, making plans for the layout and the rooms, right? Being efficient means getting the maximum amount done in the shortest period of time. However, this is pointless if you do not know what you're striving for or why. It's a bit like climbing a ladder that's set against the wrong wall. You're going upward but in the wrong direction. Being effective means having your ladder against the correct wall. It is knowing your destination in life. Effective people don't just pursue money or fame. They focus on what's important to them. Everything else flows from that primary purpose. For instance, ask yourself what you would like said at your funeral and write a personal mission statement for your life. Define what kind of person you want to be, what you want to achieve, and the values or principles that will get you to those goals. I feel like imagining one's own funeral is a little heavy, but okay then. Habit number 3, put first things first. Once you have your mission statement in place, you proceed to the important part, living it on a daily basis consistently. Most of the time, it's good enough to remember this one thing. First things first. It means carefully prioritizing everything you do so the important things are always taken care of first, while everything else is allocated time and dealt with later. One good way is categorizing all your tasks according to 2 dimensions, urgency and importance. Covey drew up his now famous matrix with 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 is for tasks that are important and urgent, crises that need to be dealt with right away. Quadrant 2 contains tasks that are important but not urgent. For instance, writing your mission statement, building important relationships, and planning for the future. Quadrant 3 has tasks that are urgent but not important, like a phone ringing while you're working on something else. And Quadrant 4 has tasks that are neither important nor urgent. Basically, a waste of your time. Of these 4 quadrants, the most important is Quadrant 2, important but not urgent. These actions are the ones that will have a massive positive impact on your life. And when you work enough in Quadrant 2, you'll find far fewer crises populating Quadrant 1. And then we arrive at habit number 4. Think win-win. Most people view the world from a win-lose paradigm. Any interaction with others becomes a competition where they need to win against other people for success. Stephen Covey believes that such thinking leads to a bitter fight where both parties end up losing. He joked that the dog gets all the food which was knocked to the floor during the argument, and it becomes impossible for long-term positive relationships with such a mindset. If we embrace a win-win mindset, on the other hand, we'll find ourselves building plenty of positive relationships because each interaction strengthens those relationships. It is important that we keep negotiating and communicating until a solution is found that suits all parties. It's not easy, of course. It requires sensitivity and patience, but the reward is a lasting positive relationship and the creation of trust. The next habit is to seek first to understand and then to be understood. Imagine walking into a doctor's clinic and having him or her listen half-heartedly to your description. They then abruptly announce, "I've heard enough," and hand you a prescription. You will not be convinced by such a diagnosis or prescription. Covey claims we often behave similarly with other people. If we want to be respected as listeners and givers of useful advice, we need to develop the skill of empathic listening. Empathic listening means trying to get inside the other person's frame of reference so you can understand them both intellectually and emotionally. We need to change our paradigm from "I'm listening so that I can provide some answer" to "I'm listening so that I can really understand the person speaking to me." He says we shouldn't just listen to the words. Pay attention to any emotions you see being communicated as well. And then comes habit number 6, the one with synergy. Synergize by treating others with openness and respect. When people truly listen to each other, put themselves in each other's shoes, and use the contributions of others as a springboard to create something great, that is synergy. Covey says the path to synergizing starts with seeing your interactions with others as an adventure. The outcome of that adventure may not be completely under your control, but you should still embrace it with complete openness. Now, this requires a significant amount of self-confidence as well as the conviction that the combined contribution of each party can lead to something great, even if the journey there is a bit chaotic. So make a list of the people you find it difficult to discuss things with and think about their views. And finally, habit number 7, sharpen the saw if you want to keep sawing. Covey claims that sharpening your saw, or keeping ourselves fit in 4 key dimensions of life, is essential for lasting effectiveness. To stay physically fit, one must exercise regularly, eat healthy, and avoid undue stress. Spiritual health is also important for lasting effectiveness. This could mean praying or meditating or just reflecting regularly on your values. To stay mentally healthy, we should read plenty of good books and avoid spending too much time watching TV or, in our times, YouTube, Netflix, social media, etc. Organizing and planning things is a great way to keep our mind sharp. It's important to take care of our social and emotional health by deliberately seeking to understand others, by building positive relationships with them, and by working on projects that help improve their lives. We must also consciously make time to recuperate and recharge. Many people claim they cannot find time for this, but in the long term, this is absolutely essential for sustained effectiveness. And that is on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey on the Synopsis with me, Ahalya.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Synopsis, powered by Timber Media.